Hey folks, it's Rob. Welcome back. Today we're continuing with part 18 on our Monstrous Compendium Appendix for the Mystara setting from TSR from 1994. And today we're opening on Golems. In this particular case, the amber slash skeletal ones are described. And I wouldn't say that they're really a slash as opposed to they are two types of golems, right? It's not like there's a chance it's going to be amber or a chance it's going to be skeletal or that they are basically the same thing. They are not. Uh, but let's get into it. So, climate slash terrain. Amber, any land. Skeletal, any land. Okay. Frequency, ambers are rare. I imagine it's quite hard to get a hold of that much amber. While skeletals are rare. A lot easier to get a hold of bones, right? They are solitary. Activity cycle, any. They don't really have a diet to speak of because they are golems. They are non-intelligent, and by which means that they don't actually have intelligence. They have directives. So that doesn't mean that they can't accomplish things in a fairly smart way. It just means that they don't really think for themselves. Treasure, see below on the amber, while skeletal doesn't have one, any treasure. They are both considered neutral in alignment, in as much as anything has an alignment that doesn't think, right? Number appearing will be 1 in both cases. The amber has an armor class of 6, while the skeletal has an armor class of 2. The amber is faster moving at 18, while the skeletal is at 12. Amber is considered 10 hit dice, has specifically 50 hit points, while the skeletal is considered 6 hit dice with specifically 30 hit points. Now, normally you would be rolling dice to determine the number of hit points for your monster based on the hit die, but golems have functionally specific built-in structure and ability to withstand damage. So the amber has 50 hit points and the skeletal has 30. The amber needs an 11 to hit AC 0, while the skeletal needs a 15 to hit AC 0. The amber gets 3 attacks. The skeletal gets 4. Amber attacks 2d6 for 2 claws and 2d10 for a bite, while the skeletal will have basically 4 weapons. No special attacks. Special defenses are see below. No magic resistance. The amber golem is size large, 8 to 12 feet long, about the size of an actual lion, while a skeletal is medium, 6 feet tall, human size. They are fearless, 20 morale. You can't break the morale of a golem. It doesn't have morale functionally. Amber golem is worth 6,000 XP, while the skeletal is worth only 1,400. A golem is actually a construct, a powerful enchanted monster created by and animated by a high-level wizard or priest. The creatures can be made from almost any material. The DM should feel free to create new types as desired. Yeah, that's just in general with golems. Basically they are animated by magic and they are a creation, right? Golems are immune to poisons and to all mind-affecting attacks, because they don't really have minds, right? In addition, they remain unaffected by most spells, with exceptions listed in individual entries. The Amber Golem. Amber golems often appear in the form of giant cats, especially lions or tigers. Their semi-translucent amber bodies, often expertly carved, look particularly beautiful in repose. They are functionally living sculptures, and living statues are a monster in the game. Functionally, there's not a lot of difference between a living statue and a golem, in the sense of like the kind of thing it is, right? It's just that living statues are not necessarily created by anybody specifically recently, but they are still creations and constructs, really. We have our picture here, and again, it's washed out, I'm afraid. There's a bit more darkness and detail to both these figures. That is definitely a lion portrayed there, and once you know that you're looking for a lion and you see the mane and the face and the legs, It's much more apparent in the picture I'm holding in my hand than on the screen, I'm afraid. Uh, our dear skeletal golem is wielding what appears to be a two-handed weapon with two of its hands, a single-handed sword, and a mace on the opposite side. And it happens to have some bindings holding the bones together, some like leathery strips or maybe cloth, right? And that's kind of more purpley in my hand here. And the whole skeleton's a bit more ivory, but it's got the evil skeleton face, right? I think it's pretty cool. I've always loved animated skeletons ever since I saw Harryhausen's stuff when I was a kid, right? You know the movies. I don't need to get into it. Combat. As with all these constructs, an amber golem is a tireless foe. In battle, it leaps upon its opponents, slashing with its terrible claws and biting with the wickedly sharp slivers of amber that form its teeth. Amber golems, nearly faultless trackers, prove particularly effective at recovering fleeing enemies. The golem can automatically follow a trail less than 12 hours old. For every additional 12 hours it elapses, it gains a 5% chance of missing or losing the scent. So, for example, an amber golem has an 85% chance to follow a trail 48 hours old. Flip side is you can think of it as a cumulative 5% chance to lose the scent, right? Depends on how you want to think about it, but really it's functionally the same math. These golems also make particularly effective guards, since they can cast Detect Invisibility to a range of 60 feet. Functionally at will, I would assume, right? An amber golem sustains damage only from magical weapons. Such a construct is considered a crystalline creature when attacked with a shatter spell. So it suffers 1d6 points of damage per caster level to a maximum of 66 points of damage, with a saving throw allowed for half damage. Amber golems also sustain half damage from fire spells, but otherwise remain immune to spells. So you can burn it. Apparently, it would be functionally immune to magic missile, which is highly unusual for anything that actually would otherwise be damaged by magic. Could be quite the thing to throw at your party. Yeah. It's not insurmountable. It's only 50 hit points. It's only an AC 6, right? It's pretty easy to actually hit the thing. It does hit hard, right? 2d6 for 2 claws and a 2d10 bite. It certainly will tear somebody up. It only needs an 11 to hit AC 0. If your primary tanking fighter has like an AC 0, which is not impossible, it's actually quite doable with plate armor and a shield and maybe a small dexterity adjustment or a little plus from something being magical. That's still basically 45% chance it's going to hit the guy, and then that's quite a bit of damage to dump into somebody potentially. Sure, yeah, minimums are 2s, right? But it goes to, it's 12, 12, and 20. I imagine you've written, suddenly that's 24 points of damage. Sorry. Yeah, 44 points of damage dumped into a character. At this level of play, that a mid-level, say like 6th level fighter it can handle it maybe one time. Depends on his con. But keep in mind the balance when you throw these things at people. Habitat/society. These automatons, which operate under the direct control of their creators, have no society or association with any particular habitat. Golems can obey simple commands, but have very limited mental capabilities. They often guard great treasures or places of importance. So, as described here, you basically you go seize them, follow them, bring them back. That's about the extent of the commands for creativeness, right? Otherwise, it's like guard this place, watch this place, make sure no one enters here, right? Unless they're wearing the silver bland or whatever. Ecology. As unusual creatures, golems play no part in as unnatural creatures. Sorry, golems play no part in the natural ecology. They neither eat nor sleep, and they live only until destroyed, usually in combat. The destruction of an amber golem causes the creature to shatter into many large shards of amber. Altogether, the pieces of amber weigh 300 to 600 pounds, 1d4 plus 200, and are worth from 3,000 to 6,000 gold pieces, 1d4 plus 2,000. An amber golem can be created only by a priest of level 17th level who has the 100,000 gold pieces it costs to produce the construct. The work takes the priest 4 months and requires the following spells: Animal Summoning 3, Animate Object, Prayer, Command, and Quest. So you can see that's quite an undertaking for somebody to create one of these. And it is quite a little treasure to get by defeating one and scooping up all the bits. Yeah. Skeletal Golem. A skeletal golem, sometimes known as a bone golem, looks like a man-sized creation sewn together from human bones. The bones are bound together in a rough imitation of the human body, with one obvious exception. Instead of having 2 arms attached to its ghastly body, a bone golem has 4, sprouting from wherever its creator chose. Some wizards also like to carve or paint runes of ownership onto the bones, such golems prove particularly frightening to look upon. Combat. Due to the skeletal golem's multiple arms, it may wield 4 weapons or 2 two-handed weapons in combat. The golem may attack 2 separate foes in a single round. Now, I would say that if it is wielding 2 two-handed weapons or basically 2 attacks are tied up by a two-handed weapon, right? So if it has 2 two-handed swords, for example, it can attack 2 targets, but it has 2 attacks, not 4, right? And if it has, 4 weapons to hand, it can attack 2 targets and splits them between 2 attacks each, right? So that's 4 attacks divided by 2. But that's me. You do you, of course. And certainly, if you want to make special ones with even more hands or, more capabilities, you can certainly up this guy with like more legs, more arms, whatever you want to do, right? Build your own bone golem. Combat. Well, let's see here. Like we were saying, a bone golem suffers damage only from magical weapons. Its immunities to poison and mind-affecting attacks extend to fire, cold, and electrical attacks as well. However, the bone golem remains vulnerable to spells with other effects. So, what would be good? Oh, well, there's acid. Yeah, you can use Melf's acid arrow on this guy. Obviously, I think it'd be immune to stinking cloud, but because it doesn't breathe. But yeah, acid would probably be a pretty viable thing. Ecology. It is rumored that the more unscrupulous wizards of the land of Alphatia particularly enjoy creating skeletal golem guardians to protect their laboratories and abodes from outsiders, especially rival wizards. Alphatia is one of the places described in the Gazetteer series. It's actually has its own. There's a box set. I have it somewhere, but not immediately in hand. Basically, Thyatis and Alphatia are the focus of the primary box set that kind of ends the Gazetteer series primarily. I say that because, actually, there's kind of some Hollow World, and you have these almanacs, and then you have Wrath of the Immortals, and it's complicated. Right. Like I was saying, a wizard of at least 14th level can build a skeletal golem in a process that takes 3 months and costs 30,000 gold pieces. The spells required are Limited Wish, which is no small ask, Animate Dead, Gias, and Stone Skin. Stone Skin's fairly achievable. Animate Dead is fairly straightforward. Gia's imposes quests upon people, right? And Limited Wish, I don't need to really describe. It's a wish, but it's kind of limited. That's the big one right there, one I would strictly control in my campaign. Although I think I understand that Gary was actually pretty free giving out wishes to people in his games. Gary Gygax, sorry. He's on my mind because Ernie, his son, passed fairly recently. And it's also just traditionally Gygax Day, like the other day. And obviously he originated the game along with Dave Arneson, right? And yeah, funny how how I hear things about how Gary Gygax used to run his games that are just kind of completely different from what I would generally expect from my experience with the game. But, you know, everyone runs their game their way, and it's not wrong, right? It's just the only wrong way to be playing this game is to be not having fun. That's what I would say. Let's move on to page 52. Golem slash Drolem, which is basically kind of a dragon-shaped golem, right? It qualifies for its own page. And you can see, well, you know, it's got a bony tail. It looks like it's made out of bits of dragons, doesn't it? Right? Like it's got some tattered, torn up wings. The legs are different colors. The body's different color. The head's a different color, right? And it's, you know, it's a four-legged headed dragon with two wings, sure. But yeah, it's again, I'm sorry, it's a little more washed out, but it's not so bad on this side today, on this picture. But yes, in what I can see in my hand, at the base of that kind of reddish brown neck, where it meets the green body, you can see little tiny, like Frankenstein staples, right? If you look real close. And you can see that where the kind of bluish arm meets the greenish torso as well, the forward. And then there's a patch of that on the lower forearm of the what would be the right arm, right? Just about mid-chest height. And there's a couple little staples on the back leg that's visible just at the top of the haunch. So it's definitely indicating in the picture a dragon golem made out of dragon parts, or maybe other beast parts, but you know, it's a scaly and dragony. So I'm assuming dragon. Let's read about it. So, climate, terrain, any land. Frequency, very rare. They are solitary. Their activity cycle is any. No diet, because, you know, it's a golem. Semi-intelligent. Interesting. It's a 2 to 4 on intelligence. So, you know, it's not non-intelligent like the other golems. It actually has some intelligence. Treasure, nil. Alignment, neutral. Number appearing, 1. Armor class, -3. So, you know, quite formidable in combat to hit it. Movement, 12 on the ground, but its flying is a 24 and a C maneuverability. I don't know if I would get that much movement out of these tattered wings, but, you know, it's magic, right? Hit dice, 20. Does not have defined hit points, I'll point out. It just says 20. To hit AC 0 of 3. 3. I have never had a character who had more than a -4 armor class. That'd be a 7 for the target to hit. It gets 3 attacks. The damage for each attack is 2d6 for each claw and a d20 plus 10 bite. Wow, I have not rolled a d20 for damage, I don't think, before. And d20 plus 10. It has a breath weapon for a special attack. Its special defenses are C below. I imagine it's much like the other golems. No magic resistance. It is gigantic in size, 27 to 35 feet long. It is fearless because it is a golem. It doesn't functionally break morale ever. It says 20. XP value 23,000. I imagine we're going to have a little bit of repeated text here about golems, but, this is how this kind of book lays out, right? A golem is actually a construct, a powerful enchanted monster created and animated by a high-level wizard or priest. These creatures can be made from almost any material. The Drolem, the most fearsome of all such constructs, proves especially difficult to create. A Drolem looks like a dragon, either a beast of a certain color, a composite of different types, or simply a dragon's skeleton. In many ways, its physical abilities rival those of the formidable beasts it resembles, but the Drolem is extremely stupid, utterly incapable of speech, spellcasting, or of the devious plotting that so often marks the actions of true dragons. Interesting. Combat. In battle, the Drolem proves as formidable as any true dragon. The monsters can sustain damage only from weapons of +2 or greater enchantment and remain immune to all forms of fire, cold, and gases, since they do not need to breathe except to use their breath weapon. In addition, Drolems are immune to poisons, mind-affecting attacks, and to all spells of 4th level or lower. They can cast Detect Invisibility to a range of 60 feet. So yeah, this will be definitely an interesting combat encounter for your high-level party, right? Unfortunately, a Drolem's intelligence, or lack of same, limits its tactics. One of these creatures does not often attempt strategies more complex than a direct attack. If given extremely precise instructions by its creator, it may successfully execute a maneuver such as picking up an opponent, flying into the air, and dropping the unfortunate victim. However, it could accomplish this sort of act only after receiving the most careful of instructions. Normally, a Drolem can follow commands no more explicit than, "Kill anyone who enters this chamber except me." All right. Most Drolems prefer to attack from the air when possible. In battle, they attack with their immense foreclaws, each one inflicting 2d6 points of damage, and their wicked bite 1d20 plus 10 points of damage. In addition, a Drolem can use its breath weapon 3 times per day to exhale a small poisonous cloud, a cube measuring 20 foot on each side, appearing directly in front of the Drolem. All within the cloud must make a saving throw versus dragon breath or die. Just die. Not damage, just die. Habitat/society. These automatons, which operate under the direct control of their creators, have no society or association with any particular habitat. Golems can obey simple commands but have very limited mental capacities. Unlike most such constructs, a Drolem can think, but in a quite limited fashion. It obeys all its creators' instructions exactly to the letter. This habit can cause difficulties. It is not unheard of for an incautious wizard to give a Drolem a command that leads to the creator's own demise. In fact, I'd be inclined to say that it's looking for those opportunities, right? It wants to be free of its creator, right? It has a limited amount of intelligence, sure, but it's looking for that, how can I eat that guy? How can I kill that guy? How can I breathe on him? How can I maul him? How can I get rid of that guy so I'm no longer his plaything, right? Ecology. As unnatural creatures, Drolems play no part in the natural ecology. They neither eat nor sleep, and they live only until destroyed, usually in combat. Most true dragons hate Drolems with a passion. The mighty reptiles either see the constructs as vicious mockeries of themselves, or find themselves horrified by the acts that Drolems are so often built to accomplish. In particular, dragons despise Drolems created in their own image. Thus, an onyx dragon becomes most enraged by the sight of an onyx Drolem, and a red dragon particularly hates the sight of a red Drolem. Because Drolems are particularly rare and powerful golems, they guard only the most special places and treasures. The especially arduous creation process can take almost a year to complete, even after all the components have been assembled. Only a wizard of at least 18th level can create a Drolem, using a certain book and several rare materials found only on Mystara. These materials, which cost about 90,000 gold pieces, are detailed in books that describe Drolem creation but remain unknown to the general public. Well, why would it be known to the general public? The scales from at least 3 different types of dragons go into the Golem's creation, rumors say. This basically means the DM needs to work that out, right? If you are wanting the players to be able to create a Drolem because they want to make one of these things, you need to be able to lay it out. Like, okay, so you're going to need to find the relevant text materials or do the relevant research. And you're going to make that happen, right? This is not something that most people know. It's maybe a secret archive, maybe in Alphacia, maybe it's like in Glantry, or some other place that you've decided. And maybe they need to quest for the lost knowledge because it's no longer in the archive or whatever. You can make it as much of a campaign as you want to make it. It's your game. But really, that's a hook, if I ever saw one, right? And these are otherwise guarding massive, terrible things that nobody should have access to, right? And that's us halfway on Golems. Next time, we'll continue onwards with the next 2 pages on Golems detailed in the book here. Just as a little spoiler, you get Iron Gargoyle / Mud and Rock / Silver. So, but that'll be all for today, because we're already approaching a half hour. Thank you very much for your attention and time. If you like what I do, I appreciate a like on the video. It helps me know that you like what I did. But I'm always appreciative of your attention and time, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.